Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Headache, weakness, feeling like the whole world is floating around. Chen Xing struggled to open his eyes. There is a world of metal in front of you. The 10-meter high space is filled with various metal products. Some look like skateboards, some look like vehicles, and two look like lifeboat pods. There are more scattered accessories, I can't tell what it is. Same as seen before. This time Chen Xing confirmed that he has time traveled. Yes, this time. Chen Xing woke up once before. But when I woke up for the first time, I got up violently because of the shock, and then passed away. This is the second time I woke up. After waking up this time, Chen Xing had the previous experience, so he didn't get up immediately. Instead, slowly turn around and check the surrounding environment. This is a relatively large space, like a warehouse or something. Because everywhere Chen Xing can see with his naked eyes, there are all kinds of items piled up. I don't know what kind of lighting is used here. Although the space is very large, there is no dark area around. Feeling a little better this way. Chen Xing supported the bed with his arms, and slowly lifted himself up. Just such a small movement made Chen Xing feel like he was struggling to support a gigantic object. And the consciousness in his mind began to shake again. I don't know how this body is so empty. Could it be that he was tired of watching short movies for 10 days in a row, and then kept busy with his hands? Chen Xing complained in his heart. But soon, he knew why this body was so weak. What could be called a bed under his body was covered with some kind of animal skin. It was soaked with dried blood at the place where his head was just now. Good guy. With this amount of bleeding, anyone might die. Oh. It seems that the original owner of this body seems to have died. Then I will come over by myself. Just why did I come here? In my memory, I was repairing a large piece of equipment, and then it seemed that some support fell down, and then the metal parts on it fell down. Does it mean that he was smashed? And then he crossed over to an unlucky bastard over here? Chen Xing covered his head with his hands, and was speechless for a while. There is no way to pick goods in this time travel. How can you randomly choose such an imaginary body? This body is not only weak, but also hungry. The feeling of dizziness is a little less, but the feeling of hunger in the stomach is pounding Chen Xing's nerves. As soon as these two feelings crossed, he lay back on the bed again. Chen Xing lay back on the bed, and some memories that did not belong to him appeared in his mind from time to time. Oh. These are probably the memories of the original owner. Slowly, these memories merged with Chen Xing's own memories. I don't know how much time passed. Chen Xing supported his body again. Having integrated the memory of the original owner, he has some understanding of the current scene. But now is not the time to think about these things. The hunger in Chen's stomach is getting stronger, and the feeling of weakness in the body is getting heavier. If he doesn't add some energy, he might die soon. Food, the most important thing right now. As far as memory goes, it's in a carry-on bag. Chen Xing looked around. The package is 3 or 4 meters away, not far away. But according to his current state, if he stands up, he will pass away. As for whether he can wake up after Ju passed, that's not certain. Fortunately, in the memory of the original body, there are service robots in this warehouse. Chen Xing sorted out the memories in his mind. This robot is called Crash. Why is it called Clatter? Chen Xing wanted to complain that the name of this product is so random. But now is not the time to think about it. As Chen Xing called out the name of Hula with a hoarse voice. There was a crash. The sound of crash gradually approached from not far away. Okay. The name is really appropriate. As the service robot approached and stood in front of Chen Xing, Clatter finally stopped. The robot in front of me seems to be assembled from different types of old parts, probably because the parts are not well matched, which is why there is such a rattling sound. Wow, bring me the food in the bag. Following Chen Xing's order, Hula was quite reliable. The mechanical head on it turned around to scan around, and then found the carry-on bag not far away. When he walked up to the bag with rushing steps, he tore open the seal with a twist of his long arm, and then took out a lumpy object the size of a fist. Then he turned around and handed the piece to Chen Xing. This is the food here. It looks like the size of a compressed biscuit, but it is softer and contains water. In my memory, this food is edible as a whole, that is to say, it is edible together with the outer membrane. Although it feels a little unhygienic, but I'm so hungry now, so I don't care about so much. Chen Xing brought this piece of food to his mouth and started to eat it. It is said to be a big mouthful, but in fact it only tastes like 3 or 5 mouthfuls. This piece of food is not big. It will make Chen Xing very hungry, so this piece of food went into his stomach in a few moments. With things to support, Chen Xing's spirit and body are a bit better. Although this piece of food is quite small, according to the standards of this world, it can meet the energy needs of a person for more than half a day. After eating, Chen Xing turned his head and looked at the carry-on bag again, remembering that there were 2 servings of food and 1 serving of water in that bag. This should be Yuan Bo's 5-day ration here. The 5-day ration only has 3 servings of food and 1 serving of water. This is not to say that the world here is the standard. It was because Yuan Bo didn't have much income here, and these 3 portions of food and 1 portion of water were saved from the rations during school. Yes. Originally a student. A month here is 35 days, and the school uniformly studies for 30 days, and then rests for 5 days. Board and lodging during the school period is the responsibility of the school. School doesn't care about the 5 days of rest, so the food for these 5 days has to be saved by the original body during school. It's just not that easy to save money. During the school period, there are 2 meals a day, each meal is a fixed portion of food, and the whole day is a portion of water. If you want to save food, you can only go hungry. So the current 3 servings of food are saved by the original owner eating 1 meal less for 3 days. Why? No wonder this body looks thin, it turned out to be malnourished. But this will eat the food and want to absorb it quickly. There is still something to do. That is to refine the food you eat according to your usual practice posture and luck. Yes, refined food. This is a world where you can practice. Although the star field here is too remote, so the level of cultivation is not high, but it is true that it can be cultivated. Chen Xing set up his posture according to the method he remembered, and then began to adjust his breath. There is no way, if you don't hurry up to strengthen the absorption of nutrients, this body may pass away permanently at any time. If it passes again, it may be gone forever. It's hard to live again. If it happens again, it will be too bad. After about 20 minutes or so, this breath adjustment is over. It's not that I can't continue, but the food in my stomach has been digested. There is no point in adjusting the breath again. There is no such thing as the 7 meridians and 8 meridians in this world. Breath adjustment means that the breath is in the body from the lower abdomen through the back upwards, along the veins of the spine up to the sea of consciousness to warm up for a few breaths, and then turn around and go back along the front midline. Abdomen. The process of running a circle is called a week. This statement is similar to that on Earth. It is said that there are still some postures and movements that can strengthen the body's absorption of spiritual energy in the universe, but because the spiritual energy on this planet is too thin, it has little effect and has been discarded. Can't absorb spiritual energy to practice. Under the impatience, the human cultivation here can only be to exercise the body desperately, squeezing out every bit of potential of the body. There is no other way. If you don't practice, you won't succeed. The planetary environment here is too harsh. It is not suitable for human survival. It's just because more valuable metal veins were discovered on the planet, several major forces joined forces to hire a large number of miners to mine the ore. After years of mining, the main ore veins have been consumed, and only some sporadic ore veins are still being excavated. Seeing that the benefits were running out, those big forces simply withdrew, but no one cares about the absenteeism hired. These miners have worked here for many years, and many have made their homes here. Those powerful people are gone, but this group of miners can only stay. Fortunately, the mining of those sporadic minerals can also be exchanged for a lot of resources. Moreover, when those big forces competed for the mineral veins, there was a big war, and thousands of warships and merchant ships were destroyed. Later, due to the huge loss, the various forces shook hands and made peace, and jointly developed it, but those crashed spaceships floated around and affected the safety of the waterway. In order to transport the cargo safely, those big forces specially dispatched large spaceships to transport the crashed spaceships to this planet for stacking and dismantling. Later, I didn't know how to negotiate. Gradually, as long as there are scrapped spaceships and other large mechanical metal wastes on the surrounding human planets, they will all be transported to this planet to be piled up. So another industry has sprung up on this planet, called scrap metal recycling. It is to classify those spaceships and various metal products, and then fuse them to make various types of metal ingots and the like. This kind of metal can't be used for other things, but it can be used to build houses for human beings and extraterrestrial flight platforms. Because it is all scrap metal recycling and refining, the cost is relatively low, but the business has been booming for hundreds of years. But also because this thing is relatively solid and durable, it is basically not broken. Therefore, in recent years, the scrap metal recycling industry has gradually declined. It seems that it is the same everywhere. The life of this product is a double-edged sword. The father of this original body was also a member of the scrap metal recycling company, but he offended his boss for some reason and was fired during his employment. There is no other place to go but to stay on this planet and join the army of scavengers. The so-called scavengers are a kind of occupation that after those garbage ships transport all kinds of metal garbage to the planet, these people go forward to collect different pure metals, and then sell them to scrap metal companies for money. In fact, it's picking up junk. But what they picked up were all kinds of pure metals. Of course, there will also be some old metal parts in the garbage that can be recycled. These scavengers dismantle these usable parts and sell them to black market dealers for money. Although this kind of occupation is not too formal, the competition is also very fierce. The original body's father's monthly income is not high, and when the original body grows up and eats more, this income will not be able to make ends meet. Fortunately, when my father was still working in the scrap metal recycling company, he applied for an educational assistance quota for the original body. With this quota, the original body did not spend much on schooling and education. Except for the 5 days of vacation every month, the rest of the time was basically no more money. It's just that the original father passed away due to an accident 2 years ago, leaving only the old spaceship remodeled home where the two originally lived. At present, there is only the original human in this family, and there is also a multifunctional robot, 2 protective combat robots, a dismantling and sorting robot, and an 8-legged stealth robot with a drill bit. In addition, there is a suspension vehicle used to transport the collected scrap metal. Before the original owner was injured, the dismantling robot put him on the suspension vehicle and sent him back. However, after the original owner was sent back, the robot did not have any settings for healing injuries, and there were no medicines available. In fact, it just put him on the bed where he usually rests. The result of doing this can only make the original owner fight hard. The final result was obvious: the original owner lost too much blood and died, and Qinxing passed through to replace the original owner. This will end Qinxing's breath adjustment. The body has recovered a lot, and it won't pass away after a little activity. It's just that I lost so much blood. Even though I ate a small piece of food with water, my mouth was still very dry. There was still water in the bag before, which was saved and brought back from the school. Originally, this family also had that kind of over-filtering water condensation equipment, but I don't know if it's not functioning well or the air here is not good. The condensed water always has a strange smell, and the color is not normal, not only in the original owner's house. Well, the water condensed by the people nearby is almost like this. This also makes everyone want to drink water, but they can only buy water delivered by others through the scrap metal recycling station. Fortunately, because of the harsh environment, the human beings here use water very well in order to adapt to this condition. They can only drink 1 serving of water for a day or 2, otherwise everyone will go bankrupt just drinking water. Qinxing got up and walked to the place where the bag was placed. After walking for a few steps, although he was still a little unsteady on his feet, he was finally able to move normally. There are not many things in the bag, except for 2 bags of food and 1 water, a school pass card, a 2-foot-long hoverboard, and a change of underwear. Other things are temporarily unusable. Chen took a piece of food and a piece of water and went back to the bed. Naturally, water must be drunk, and Chen is also equipped to eat this food immediately. Originally, the remaining 2 portions of food were rations for the next 3 days, but this time he suffered such a serious injury and urgently needed a lot of nutrition to supplement. If he didn't eat now, he would recover more slowly if he was hungry. In the environment here, if the body is weak, the chance of dying will increase exponentially. Without too much hesitation, Chen first drank more than half of the water, and then ate the food. With the bottom of the food just now, the body is not too hungry, but in order to nourish the body as soon as possible, I have to eat what I should eat. I didn't drink all of the water. Based on the experience in Chen memory, if I drank all the water, part of it could not be absorbed and wasted. Now I leave a few sips of water for the sake of the rest. 3 days to consider. After eating again, Chen sat on the edge of the bed and began to think about what to do next. This time I accidentally passed through this body, and it seems unrealistic to want to go back to the earth again. It's just that if you want to survive in such a family, you have to make money to support yourself. Make money? Chen looked at the various scrap metal products piled up around him. According to the memory of the original owner, the total value of the things piled up here was no more than 1,000, and the same kind of metal had to be assembled into 1 unit, about a ton. Then it can be sold to the scrap yard. Too little will not be accepted. Low-grade metal itself is not worth much. Although this warehouse is large, there are quite a lot of metals piled inside, but it is still not enough to gather several copies of the same metal. These piles of metals are too complicated and belong to different types. The original owner was in school most of the time, so he didn't tidy them up properly. If we want to tidy them up now, 3 to 5 days may be a bit tight. Chen looked around, looking for something to exchange for money. There is no way. If you have no money, you will be hungry. Who made him not wear it to a good man's house? Chen was groping around. There was nothing in the surrounding area that could be exchanged for money immediately, but when he turned around, he saw something on the bed. Looks like a bracer. This thing was unintentionally disassembled by the original owner's father from a very old spaceship. At that time, he was dismantling an accessory on the ship, and accidentally encountered a certain mechanism, and such a wristband fell out of a dark warehouse. At that time, the original owner's father thought it was a good thing, but after playing with it all these years, he didn't find any use. However, the whole wristband is still very beautiful in shape and very strong, so he kept it. This time the original body was injured and bleeding profusely. The wristband was just placed next to the pillow, and the blood should have soaked the entire wristband. It's just that there is not much blood left on the wristband, including the bed below it. It seems that the wrist guard has been absorbed. There was a big pool of blood, but one piece was missing in the middle. This is a bit strange. Is it really absorbed by the wristband? Is this thing so evil? Chen showed some interest in this wristband, but he didn't dare to hold it with his hands. Instead, he found a piece of animal skin with unknown properties as a cushion from the side, and then picked up the wristband. This bracer is made of a yellow metal. I don't know what alloy or metal it is. But the color looks nice. There are several protective plates on the outside of the wristband, which are a bit like a beast, and a pattern similar to a wolf's head is engraved on it. But it is much more domineering than the wolves on Earth. To say that this thing looks really high-end, but the original body has played with it before, but it didn't make any sense. But this time, the wristband is soaked in blood. It seems a little different. Chen fiddled with the wristband for a while, and saw that there was nothing unusual, so he touched it with his hand first. This time nothing happened. Well, this time I can rest assured. Chen began to observe carefully with the wristband in his hand. The wristband is still the same as before, but fortunately, Chen Xing is a person with memories of 2 lifetimes. On Earth, he often assembles accessories and has a good understanding of various structures. Although this wristband is an alien product, it still allowed Chen Xing to discover the mechanism. In fact, it was Chen Xing who, after a frenzy of pressing, opened a protective page, revealing the place where the energy bar was placed inside. Similar to other wrist devices here, this wristband also uses a small energy bar. However, too much time has passed, and the original energy bar in the wristband has long since lost its energy, and has turned into a thin gray piece. Since it uses an energy bar, it goes without saying, of course it needs to be replaced with an energy bar. However, the original body is picking up scraps here, and there is no money to buy energy bars. The energy bars used in the past are second-hand energy bars dismantled from various waste equipment. It is difficult to say how much energy is in it. Chen Xing came to the box where the energy bars were stored. There were all kinds of second-hand energy bars in the box, not only small energy bars for wrist devices, but also energy bars for robots, and energy bars for suspension vehicles. Energy columns, all in this box. It's just that there are not many things in this meeting, and energy columns and energy bars are also in short supply here. People who pick up scraps are vying for the benefits. The original owner stayed here for less time, and naturally found fewer things. In addition to the daily consumption, there are only 3 small energy bars in the box at this time, and judging by the appearance, the energy inside is not even half. Fortunately, Chen Xing wanted this energy bar just to test whether the wrist brace can be used. As for whether the energy bar has enough energy, it is not a big problem. Replace the wristband with a second-hand energy bar. The wristbands began to change a little bit, It's like being alive. It's not that the wristband has become a living thing, but the color of the entire wristband is a little brighter, and it looks updated, which is different from the dusty item for a long time. Not bad. Although I don't know what the function of this wristband is, but the appearance alone makes people like it very much. Chen Xing put the wristband on his left wrist. It seems to be a little loose, but it's not a big problem if I don't fight with others at the moment. When Chen Xing was looking at his wristband, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. The energy of the resource detection aid is insufficient, please replenish it in time. I'm stupid. This sentence almost scared Chen Xing to the ground. This heart is beating wildly. Fortunately, Chen Xing reacted in time. It was something like the control intelligence in the wristband talking to him. Usually, the original body also has a communicator to communicate in this way, but Chen Xing was not prepared for this meeting, so he was scared. Didn't you just put an energy bar? Why do you still say that the energy is insufficient? With a skeptical expression, Chen Xing opened the energy bar slot of the wristband again. Forehead? Why is the energy bar useless? This second-hand energy bar that was just replaced has completely lost its energy and turned into a small gray piece. Does this thing eat energy? The energy bar is consumed so quickly. There is no way. Chen Xing can only take out another second-hand energy bar and replace it with the wrist guard. A few minutes later, the voice in my head reappeared, and it was still the same sentence. The energy of the resource detection auxiliary device is insufficient, please replenish it in time. I'm so stupid. This is playing a bird. What kind of booster is this? It's an energy booster, but it took 2. If you give up halfway, the previous things will be in vain. Come on, give it the other one too. Chen Xing was a little unbelieving, and replaced the wristband with a third energy bar. This time I always waited for a different answer than before. The energy of the resource detection aid has been replenished to 1.27%. Due to insufficient energy, the function is limited, the storage function is limited, the detection range is limited, and the communication function is limited. Please replenish the energy in time. What the hell? I made up 3 second-hand energy bars, and there is almost a new one more, so I made up a little more. Chen Xing wanted to go crazy listening to the voice in his head. This new one is only a little more, so wouldn't it take hundreds of energy bars to fill up this so-called resource detection aid? Thinking about the price of a new energy bar, Qinxing thinks it's pretty good without this wristband. But listening to the introduction just now, Qinxing was a little excited again. Storage function? Is it space storage? Does that mean that Buddy has a magic weapon of space? There is also a detection function. I don't know how far it can be searched. With this function, wouldn't it be possible to pick up any metal you want in the future? I bother. Qinxing patted his face, blushing at the thought just now. Who would believe it? With such good equipment, what I think about is how to pick up the waste. This is really a disgrace to the traversers. Since the function of this wristband is so useful, I can only make good money and buy more energy bars for it in the future. Before that, Qinxing still wants to know about the various functions of this wristband. It is said that it has a storage function, so let's talk about how many things can be stored first. It is also a storage for a bottle of water, and it is also a storage for an airplane. The difference is huge. The detection function is the same, exploring a square is a detection, and a square kilometer is also a detection. The efficiency difference between the two is far. Generally, this kind of control intelligence can answer some simple questions, and the basic function introduction can answer them. So Qinxing decided to ask control intelligence first. For example, the size range of various functions or something. However, after Qinxing asked these questions in his mind, the control intelligence of the wristband did not answer, but came a sentence: does the user bind the resource detection aid? If not, it will not be able to answer any questions from the user. I'm sorry, this is a strong buy and sell. Without even introducing the functions of various aspects, it is forced to bind. Which product is this? I must give them a bad review. It's just that it's useless. Qinxing is just a scrap picker now, and he has no chance to find a bad review. I can only admit it. So Qinxing could only answer in his mind that he agreed to the binding. This time, which control intelligence didn't play any tricks, it just scanned the various features of Qinxing's body, and when asked the user's name, Qinxing hesitated. Although his name is indeed Qinxing, in this world, the current owner of this body does not have that name. The name of the original body is Xingchen, which means interstellar dust. In this scavenger's area, as well as the school area over there, this is the name used by the original body. Now, although Qinxing traveled over to replace stardust and survived, the circle here doesn't recognize the name Qinxing. It is meaningless to use the name Qinxing for the binding aid. After all, you will have to use the name Stardust to live here in the future. After a long silence, Qinxing finally made up his mind. He replied in his heart that the username is Stardust. As soon as this sentence comes out, it means that Qinxing is completely cut off from his previous life. Of course, it doesn't make any sense not to want to cut off. He can't go back. Nothing happened next. The intelligence on the wristband completed the binding. However, Qinxing did not immediately ask questions about intelligence, but sat for a long time, and then said to himself silently, I will be a Stardust in the future. In the future, I will live in the name of Xingchen. After saying goodbye to myself, Qinxing, no, it's called Stardust now, and I started to ask about the various functions of this auxiliary device in detail. This auxiliary device is a relatively high-end interstellar exploration equipment. It has a space to store items. The built-in precision magic circle system can detect objects within a diameter of about 300 meters. The space is not as large as Stardust originally imagined. Only about 12 cubes in size. And now, because of insufficient energy, the space storage function is completely unusable. However, the detection range has only been reduced due to insufficient energy, and it has not completely failed. The place that can be explored now is only more than 80 meters in diameter. These are of course temporary. As long as enough energy is replenished in the future, those restricted functions can be restored. In addition, this assistant also has some small functions, such as communication function and translation function. These are not used yet, and the communication function is the same as the communicator used before. However, this wristband consumes too much energy. I don't know how long this amount of energy can last, so it's better to use the previous one for communication. This information is what Xingdust knows. For now, That is, the probing function is still somewhat useful. But usefulness is useful, you still have to see what you can detect first. If you just name things that are visible to the naked eye, then it's better to save the money to buy energy bars to eat. Thinking of this, Xingchen said in his mind, "Detector, activate the detection function." However, this time the intelligence on the wristband did not directly start the detection, but replied in his mind, "User, my name is a resource detection aid, not a profiler. Please respect my name." Stardust is a little speechless, this bird profiler is still a little short-tempered. But this full name is a bit long, I can't bear to be called back and forth like this every day. How many more words do you have to say? It takes physical strength to speak, so what can I do with this little physical strength? So Xingchen said, "This resource exploration aid, can your name be changed? Can I change your name again?" Based on the permission, the user has the modification permission after the binding is successful, and you can reset the relevant name and other content. Okay. Just change the name. User, what does OK mean? There is no relevant explanation found in the language database. You don't have to worry about this. Say your name first. Okay, user, please tell me the name you are going to set up. Wait a minute, don't be a user all the time, users call me. I am a user, I am also the owner of this resource detection aid, you will call me the owner in the future. Do you understand? Okay, master. Please tell me the name you are going to set up. Well, this answer makes me much more comfortable. I see that you are all golden yellow, and there is a pattern like a dog's head on it. This reminds me of the rhubarb I raised when I was a child. To commemorate it, you will be called Rhubarb from now on. Okay, master. My name will be Rhubarb from now on, but what kind of head is a dog's head? On the surface, what I portray is a kind of fierce beast that is common in the interstellar world. Is it similar to that dog? It's too much to explain this question. Don't worry about it, the two are very similar. Okay, master. Although it took a lot of saliva, I finally changed the name, otherwise calling that tricky name would be annoying to death. Next, I still have to test the detection function. If I don't know the details of this thing, how can I buy such an old and expensive energy bar for it with peace of mind? Rhubarb, turn on the detection function. Okay, master. The detection function is turned on, and when it takes 1/1000th of a second, it consumes 0.042% of energy. Before Xingchen could speak again, a sea of data appeared in his mind. A large amount of data swiped the screen in an instant, causing Xingchen's brain to shut down a bit, and then he didn't remember any data. Retaliation, this must be revenge. It is estimated that I called it rhubarb, but he was not very happy, so he used this method to amuse me. Xingchen rolled his eyes, feeling a little speechless. But it's also my fault that he didn't explain what he wanted to scan and detect. There are too many items in this 80-meter diameter range, and I don't have the corresponding reaction speed, so I can't keep up with the rhubarb display. Come on, this 0.042% energy is a waste of energy. Next, Xingchen thought about how to express it, and then ordered, "Rhubarb, check the distribution and quantity of various pure metals in this warehouse." Okay, master, the detection function is turned on, it takes 1/1000th of a second, and consumes 0.035% of energy. Then a large amount of data appeared in Xingchen's mind. Fortunately, this time the data was relatively small, so he could see it more clearly. This time Rhubarb didn't make any mischief, but sorted the data first, and when Xingchen saw an item, he would show the distribution of the metal. At the back of each variety, information such as the total weight of this type of metal is attached. Stardust nodded in satisfaction. This investigation report is well done, with a general map, classification, and quantity. According to the above guidelines, it is absolutely possible to classify the same type of metal in a short time. It will be much more convenient to pick up metal in the future. Pooh. 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 Why did I think of how to pick up the garbage again? Stardust shook his head, shaking this thought away. then asked, "Rhubarb, besides detecting metals, what else can you detect?" "Master, I can detect tens of millions of items in the interstellar space, millions of interstellar creatures, hundreds of thousands of minerals in space, and other useful resources." "Oh. It's so powerful. It's awesome." "Yes, Master, my detection system has been perfected and supplemented for tens of millions of years, and it basically covers all common resources." "But what does Nyobi mean? I haven't found it in the database." "Ah. A spoken sentence is meaningless, so don't worry about him." "Okay, Master." Xingqian rubbed his nose. He couldn't speak these colloquial words from now on, it was too much effort to explain. "This is okay for Rhubarb, if you can fool the past, if you let your classmates listen to it in the future, it's not sure what will happen." The two inspections just now let Xingqian know some of the functions of Rhubarb, and also let him discover that one of the scrap metals in this warehouse is almost ready for a unit. This is great news. You must know that he only has one meal at this time, and it will take 3 days before he can go back to school. During this period, if you don't spend some money to buy food, you will be hungry, and there is still water. Only 1/3 of the water left is not enough to consume for 3 days. You have to make money to buy water and food, and the fastest way to make money is to sell metal. Originally, the various metals in this warehouse were randomly placed. It was very troublesome to find out how much of which metal was there. However, after some investigation by De Huang, the location of these same metals was clear at a glance, and it was much easier to find them all. There is no need for Stardust to put the same kind of metal together. The previous Hula and other sorting and dismantling robots are all experts in this matter. "To make money, of course we must hurry up," Xingqian yelled over, and then the dismantling robot Dang Dang also yelled over. Rhubarb has the function of data exchange, that is, it can send the location information detected by scanning to the two robots. With the specific location, it is much more convenient to classify metals, and there is no need to classify all kinds of metals. The current task is only to classify this one. It also makes working a lot faster. With the sound of bang, 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 the metal was gradually gathered together. From time to time, there will be a rattling sound. This is not the presence of new robots, but the sound of two robots bringing down a certain pile of metal while working, and then the whole pile of metal collapses. Stardust watched this scene and shook his head. With such a method, it is no wonder that the original owner will be smashed and hanged. The two robots were busy, and in the past half an hour or so, all the metals of this type were collected together. It is not much different from the result detected by Rhubarb. This pile of metal has 0.87 units. It seems that it is very close to a unit, but this thing is almost close, and they will not accept it. The remaining 0.13 units of metal have to be collected. If you want to collect it, you have to go to the current waste disposal area. Because metal waste has been piled up for too long on this planet, basically the place where you can pile things is full, and the metal layers hundreds of meters high are all low. Yes, some piles of metal scraps are thousands of meters high. For the sake of safety, the metal scraps transported by aliens are now piled up by area. One layer is piled up in one area, and then transferred to the next area. All areas are directly piled up, and then another layer is built up. In the past, there was a lot of metal recycling, so there would not be so many useless metal products left. Since the resale of recycled metals has become cold, there are more and more old metal products here. Don't let those planets send it here, they still pay to send it here. Just like the landfill on the Earth, they pay to send it here. The industries on this planet were already in a downturn, and now that they had extra income, they couldn't control much. The nearest storage area currently in use is about 170 kilometers away from home, and this distance can be reached in about half an hour by suspension vehicle. Xingqian looked at the time on the communicator. It was about an hour past the cold night time. It's still early until the next cold night, and I can still work for another 14 hours now. Of course, there will be a hot period during this period, but it will not be a big problem to find an old spaceship hull to hide at that time. Yes, in Stardust's memory, the environment on this planet is very dangerous. The temperature at night is only -80 or 90 degrees. With this temperature and strong convective air, ordinary people can't live on the surface of the planet, so the night is also called cold night. In addition, at noon, due to the excessive exposure of the stars, the temperature on the surface of the planet often reaches 60 to 70 degrees. Even wearing protective clothing, it is difficult to stay outdoors. This time, Duanyi is called the hot season. Other than that, the surface of the planet can treat people. But these scavengers will work on the surface of the planet, and the rest of the people live and work in various buildings underground. Even the miners who dig mines work thousands of meters deep inside the planet. How should I put it? Scavengers are really a bunch of bitter bastards. But if there are other occupations, who would want to suffer like this? The time was right. Xingchen stood up and moved his hands and feet. This body will still be a little weak due to blood loss, but fortunately, the original body has a good foundation. After the blessing of 2 parts of food and half a part of water, it will be considered recovered. As long as it is not a long-term violent movement, it should not be a big problem. Alright, get ready and go to work. Well, just to pick up trash, although I still have some conflicts in my heart, but at present, only this is the fastest way to earn money. Stardust can only pinch his nose to recognize it. When you go out to pick up scraps, you need to bring the dismantling robot Dang Dang, you also need the suspension car, and you also need the octopus robot. Of course, 2 guard robots are also indispensable. Walla is to guard the house. There are some traps near the entrance and exit of the house, and it has to take care of it. There were only so many people going out, and the subordinates who counted their heads ordered to watch the house, and Xingchen led his subordinates to the exit. Then when he turned his head, Xingchen ran back again. I forgot to bring my weapon with me. It's not peaceful here, although there are no particularly powerful star beasts, but because there are too many waste products. At some point, a foreign spaceship brought a kind of stinger rat. This kind of animal is bigger than a cat, with slender limbs and a body covered with armor leather. In addition, the slender tail with spikes can pierce people, and it has strong vitality and is not easy to be killed. Anyway, this thing is very difficult to deal with, and it does not reproduce slowly. It usually feeds on the energy of some metals and spaceships, and it will attack people when it sees them. Once surrounded by it, it has a great chance of becoming a snack. In order to deal with this kind of stinger rat, the planet will kill once or twice a year on a large scale, but there are too many waste products, and there are always fish that slip through the net. Anyway, now scavengers have to prepare weapons and escort robots when they go out, otherwise they will die. None of the dead bodies. Stardust also has corresponding weapons here. A knife is on the back, a long gun is in the hand, and there are 6 gun heads in a bag wrapped around the waist. This kind of gun head is specially made. After piercing into the body of the stinger rat, the mechanism on the gun head will explode the tip part of the gun head when the mechanism is pressed, and it will rotate and charge forward. Only this kind of lethality can instantly kill the spike rat. Of course, after the gun head explodes, the gun head will not have much lethality, and the only way to do it is to change the gun head immediately. That's why I took another 6 gun heads as spares. The handle of the knife is very long, and the edge of the knife is less than 2 feet. It looks like a 2-handed knife. The natural lethality of this style is not as high as that of a spear, but once the tip of the gun is used up, you have to rely on this knife to fight. After finishing the weapon, Xingchen quickly ran back to the front of the team. This time it is not missed. Set off. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. After leaving this warehouse, Xingchen asked Walla to close the door. Then lead a group of younger brothers along the passage inside the spaceship to the exit. Yes, his home is on a spaceship hundreds of meters long. Of course, this spaceship is relatively large, so Stardust only takes up one large compartment. Many of the rest of the parts have been disassembled, revealing a large space. There are many spaceships like this on this planet, and most of those scavengers also live on such spaceships, and usually each person occupies one spaceship, far away from each other. Xingchen took his little brother to the side door of the spaceship. This door was originally an automatic door, but it is now abandoned, so it can only be opened manually. Naturally, it was not Xingchen's turn to do the job of opening the door. A guard robot next to him stepped forward and shook the mechanism, and the 7 or 8 meter wide door slowly opened. In addition to this door, there is also a large delivery port for loading and unloading at the rear of the spaceship. The entrance to the warehouse is 20 meters wide, but now I am only taking a few younger brothers for a trip, and the largest suspension car is only more than 2 meters wide, so there is no need for such a big battle. When the door opened, Xingchen took his little brother out of the spaceship, and the guard robot shook the mechanism on the outside to close the door again. With 2 gates for protection, this home is quite safe. There is a long passage outside the spaceship, and the entire passage extends obliquely upwards from the door of the spaceship to the top of the entire waste pile. After the original owner and his son chose the spaceship to live in, it took a lot of time to build this passage for travel. It seems that this passage is still stable. Along the way, Xingchen took his little brother up leisurely. It's not that you have a sick head if you walk instead of taking a car, but you won't be able to fly in a suspension car. This channel is surrounded by various metal parts. From time to time, one sticks out from which direction, or a large piece sticks out. If you fly all the way on a suspension car, you may be missing a few pieces. It's okay, we'll take that risk. While walking, Rhubarb suddenly said in his mind, "Master, 2 unknown life breaths were found 71 meters ahead. The energy intensity is about 17 to 21. It is classified as dangerous and needs to be prepared." It's dangerous. Stardust stopped. This value is roughly equivalent to the monk level of the 2nd level human level. Generally, as long as people on this planet are trained, they can reach the 4th human level or above after they reach adulthood. The strength of the 2nd level human level like this is that of a teenager or juvenile body. But no one like that would come to such a place. If human beings are ruled out, then it is easy to know what these 2 unknown life breaths are. Good guy, I ran into a goat rat just as I was going out. Stardust was a little speechless. However, this guy Rhubarb is quite useful. You can find the existence of the stinger rat at a distance of more than 70 meters, so you don't have to be afraid of being attacked by this thing in the future. It's just that Rhubarb can detect millions of interstellar creatures? Why didn't you figure out what kind of creature it was this time? Oh. By the way, more than 70 meters, beyond the range. Rhubarb said before that there is not enough energy, so the detection range is only about 80 meters in diameter. Now 70 meters ahead is beyond this range. Don't blame Rhubarb this time. Rhubarb, after the 2 targets enter the detection range, immediately check the surrounding terrain and the target's location. I'm going to kill each other. Okay, Master. Next, Xingchen and his younger brother did not stop, but continued to walk up the passage. There are several passages with steering angles for stability, and there is no straight up and down. But it didn't take much effort to go all the way. Less than 30 meters have passed since the Rhubarb alarm to approaching the stinging rat and checking the surrounding environment, and less than 10 seconds have passed. At this time, Xingchen has already prepared the gun, and the knife is also placed where it is easiest to take out. Anyway, he is ready to kill. As soon as he entered the detection range, Da Huang scanned all the situation in this area, and then the position of the goat rat and the surrounding terrain were all presented in Xingchen's mind. Know the enemy, and win every battle. The situation at the scene was all in Xingchen's mind, so the encounter with the 2 squirrels this time was nothing unexpected. These 2 gorillas did not stay together, but one hid behind the metal fittings on the left, and the other hid in a crack above the passage. It seems that they want to attack up and down, but are the animals here so smart? We'll play tactics. With Rhubarb's help, Xingchen knew the opponent's position, so he naturally prepared corresponding tactics. Here, Xingchen led the younger brother without stopping, still walking towards the exit. When it was about 4 meters away from the goat rat on the left, the goat rat jumped out from its hiding place, and then threw itself on Xingchen's face. This is also the usual method used by thorn rats to attack humans. Generally, people who pick up waste outside wear protective clothing. This kind of clothing is more durable, and it takes a lot of stingers to break through. However, there is room for the protective clothing on the face. As long as the echidnas pounce on the human face, their sharp claws can immediately cause serious damage to human beings. Of course, this time Xingchen was on guard. This attack was useless. At the same time as the agouti pounced forward, Xingchen raised the tip of his spear and stabbed at it. It's too late to say it's too late. This one pounce, one prick, and in less than a blink of an eye, the gorilla was on the top of the spear. It's just that the stinger mouse's skin is thick and strong, and the prick this time is not too deep. The tip of the spear enters from the lower jaw, and the prick is less than half a foot. However, there is a mechanism on the tip of the gun, and Xingchen pressed the switch on the gun shaft at the same time, and saw that the part where the tip of the gun pierced into the rat's body trembled, and then the rat's chest and abdomen trembled. And then the gorilla was silent, but this is not the only goat rat here. At the same time as the one on the left came out, the thorn rat above also got out of its hiding place, and then flew down. At this time, Xingchen had just pressed the mechanism to kill the opponent, and it was too late to change the tip of the gun, but the weapon he was carrying was not just a long gun. Xingchen let go of the gun barrel with his right hand, grabbed the handle of the knife with his left hand and lifted it upwards, and at the same time grasped the top of the handle of the knife with his right hand to adjust the direction of the tip of the knife, and headed towards the prickly rat. The stinging rat that jumped down couldn't adjust its posture in the air, and could only watch helplessly as the tip of the knife pierced its abdomen. However, as I said before, the stinger mouse has a strong vitality, and it didn't kill the opponent this time. Although the thorn mouse that jumped down from above was injured, it still fiercely wanted to attack Stardust with its tail thorn. After Xingchen stabbed the stinger mouse with the tip of the knife, he didn't stand still, but stabbed the knife against the broken old metal wall beside him. This time, the thorn rat was stuck on the knife and couldn't break free, and couldn't die for a while. It could only scream and struggle desperately. Seeing that the two stinging rats had no attack ability, Xingchen slowly replaced the gun head, and then used the high-damage spear to give the active stinging rat a sure kill. Alright. A double kill is done. Pretty. After getting rid of the two thorn rats, the surrounding area will be safe. But the corpses of the two gorillas can't stay here. This can be exchanged for money and things. You must know that on this planet, food is quite scarce, and people usually only eat that kind of lumpy food. Want to eat vegetables and meat? Stop dreaming. Those things are not expensive at all. A month's income of common people may not be able to exchange for a meal. Therefore, this kind of carnivore, which can be called meat-eating, has become a relatively economical food material. It's just that the taste of this stuff is quite pleasing, and not many people are willing to eat them. However, scavengers are not picky about this thing. Meat is good enough to eat, so what about bicycle dealers? The original owner has eaten here a few times, but now he has changed people. With Xingchen's current personality, he can't accept this thing. So, let's throw it on the suspension car and change something when he meets other scavengers. Alright. There were no accidents on the next road. Xingchen took all the younger brothers out of the tunnel, and then got on the suspension car together. At this time, the surface temperature of the planet is rising, much warmer than the cold night period, but it is just above freezing point. If you exhale from the mouth, you will not exhale the white mist on the earth, because there is too little water vapor here to condense at all. It's not very comfortable to drive on this kind of open-air suspension vehicle in such weather, but this is the condition here, so I can only grit my teeth and get used to it. Xingchen asked the two younger brothers to stand in front of the car to block the wind, while he sat in the car, and then put on the auxiliary respirator that was always worn around his neck. Although there is an atmosphere on this planet, the oxygen content in the atmosphere is not too much. Usually when staying in the warehouse, there is an air circulation system to increase oxygen, but once you go out for a long time, you still need this respirator. This is also due to Stardust's lack of strength. For example, some strong people above the 9th human level can maintain their vitality even without oxygen supply. Of course, if there is a fierce battle, this state can't last long. No words all the way, soon come to the latest stacking area. Of course there is nothing to say, and there is no one else. In order to save energy, Rhubarb did not investigate indiscriminately. If there is nothing found, it will not report indiscriminately. The storage area is not crowded, and there are not so many scavengers. About 20 middle-aged and elderly people wearing various costumes are distributed in these 2 square kilometers. Young people generally wouldn't come here, and Xingchen stayed here since he was a child, so he made some money here. Seeing Xingchen coming over, there is a bald man who is far away and greets Xingchen. Xingchen, seeing that you were seriously injured yesterday, I thought you would never come back. I didn't expect to come to work after only 1 day. Why don't you take a good rest? Uncle Bald, am I short of money? What if I don't come to work? This time, I'm in good health, otherwise you won't be able to see me in the future. Then you have to take it easy. No one touched your piece yesterday, so go ahead and pick it up. Shout out if you have something to do. Okay. Then I'll go. After greeting his acquaintance, the bald uncle, Xingchen walked towards the place he occupied yesterday. Along the way, I also met some familiar waste pickers. Hara. In this kind of place, you need to have some familiarity. Although it would be a bit dirty to pick up waste and take up space, there are more goat rats here, and sometimes dozens of goat rats will attack humans in groups. In such a situation, 1 or 2 people will definitely not be able to stop it. Only the big guys can fight together. 20 or 30 strong men, plus the escort robots with them, can defeat the large group of thorn rats. After a while, Xingchen came to the place he occupied yesterday. This place is not big, but there are still a lot of things piled up, so it is quite difficult to find waste products. But now that Rhubarb is here, naturally everything is no problem. Stardust stood almost in the middle of the area he occupied, and no one noticed when he looked around. So let Rhubarb start to investigate. Rhubarb's investigation this time is not small, and it took some energy, but now Rhubarb is gradually becoming humanized. Originally, the scanning area was large, and there must be quite a lot of things detected, but Rhubarb did not display all the items like the first detection, but typed a general category, and then the following items classification. In short, it is very intuitive to show the result. But this time I came out to work, mainly because I wanted to find the metal that was missing 0.13 units. With a thought, Xingchen communicated with Rhubarb. The location of the same type of metal found in the results of this investigation was passed on to Dang Dang, and it was the main force of the work. Of course, you can't be idle. Those places that are buried deep in the scrap metal, you can drill in to get things. The subordinates started to work, but Xingchen himself was idle. Usually at this time, it is Stardust looking for metals that can be recycled, and then Dang Dang and Chilio go to get the things. This time, as soon as Rhubarb checked, the metal position was found, and the rest was for the robot to go to the corresponding position, and then remove the metal by cutting, smelting, and other means, and put it on the suspension vehicle. Today, Xingchen's work was replaced by Rhubarb, and he started wandering around when he was bored for a while. One is to communicate with the people around, and to replace the goats that I brought over, and the other is to see what is interesting in this place. Although Rhubarb checked it out, the things that the scavengers saw were different from the valuable items that Rhubarb knew about. Who knows if something will be missed? Just reached an agreement with a scavenger in the nearby area to exchange rat meat for food. Stardust turned to the other side. At this time, Rhubarb sounded a warning and found another goat rat hiding in the dark. This is where this thing often appears. However, this will catch up with the gathering of scavengers, and generally there are very few public appearances of echinacea. Seeing that the location image sent by Rhubarb was very close to him, Xingchen decided to deal with this guy. Otherwise, if you neglect to let it attack and get injured, you will lose money. After checking the condition of the weapon, Xingchen walked towards the position of the goblin. However, he didn't show any strange emotions, so as not to run away in fright. At this time, the stinging mouse was hiding in the gaps among some metal products, and it probably came out to look for food when there were few people, but it had already been discovered by Rhubarb, so it couldn't be kept. When he was 3 to 4 meters away from the stinger mouse, Xingchen stepped forward fiercely, and at the same time pierced the stinger mouse with the tip of the gun along the gap. The goat rat was in the slit and couldn't dodge it. It could only grab the gun shaft with its claws to prevent the gun from piercing. However, the human strength was too great, and the gun head penetrated the goat rat's body smoothly, and then the mechanism pressed. The goat rat's chest trembled for a while, and then there was no movement. Okay. We can change food again. This time it was freshly baked goji rat meat, and Xingchen carried the goji rat and exchanged food with the scavengers next to him. Including the replacement just now, there are now 4 servings in the stardust bag. 2 days of rations arrived. After wandering around in this area, Xingchen didn't find any valuable objects. He could only go back to the suspension vehicle and wait. Come back, but this amount is still a bit short. This is a bit of a hassle. Originally, I thought that I could find all the metals here, and I could exchange them for money in the next half day. But this is a little bit worse, people don't recognize it. Although the total difference is about 30 kilograms. It's no wonder that the 2 younger brothers didn't find it all. That's about the amount of pure metal in the area they occupy. Without this kind of thing, this robot can't be conjured up for you. Xingchen thought for a while, and asked Da Huang to send the locations of several other pure metals in the investigation results to Dang Dang and Bailiu. Although these types of metals are not available in one unit at home, they can be exchanged with other scavengers in this area. There are not many such pure metals in my own area, which does not mean that there are not many others, just exchange it with other metals. I'm so smart. Because this time it is not limited to one kind of metal, so the 2 of them are more efficient in finding metals. About half an hour later, there were 60 to 70 kilograms of other pure metals in front of Xingchen. Of course, the prices of these metals vary, so if you want to exchange them, you may suffer a small loss. But it's not a big problem. Stardust asked Dang Dang to put all these metals on the suspension vehicle, then let a few younger brothers get on the vehicle, and drove towards the area where the scavengers were located. That area was occupied by a skinny man with a scarred face. When he saw Xingchen bringing all the younger brothers over, he thought he was going to grab the space, so he hurriedly gathered several robots who were sorting and collecting items by his side. This guy is overreacting. But most of those who work as scavengers have this virtue. In order to save trouble, Xingchen stopped a few tens of meters away from the other party, and then told the other party what he wanted. It's normal to exchange what you lack. Scarface relaxed after hearing this, but the robot beside him didn't start working, so he still seemed a little worried. But Xingchen didn't care about so many, he just asked the other party how much of that metal he had and what kind of metal he needed to exchange. Once this happens, the deal is done. It's just that the Scarface here is not too much, and it is still less than 10 kilograms short after the exchange. Come on, then find the next one to change. Fortunately, the next family saw the process of Xingchen exchanging metal with this guy, and knew what was going on. When Xingchen passed by this house, the black-faced old man didn't overreact like the guy just now, and he probably knew the original owner of Stardust. He is not such a bad person, so this time, the exchange will be smoother. In the 2 transactions, Stardust exchanged 50-odd kilograms of other metals for 37 kilograms of the missing metal. It seems to have suffered a small loss, but it saved a lot of time, and the purchase prices of several metals are also different, but it didn't lose much. After the exchange is completed, that unit of pure metal will be collected. When I go home and put the 0.87 unit on the car, I can go to the scrapyard to sell it for money. Thinking that the money will be collected in a short while, Xingchen also relaxes a little. After this time travel, he is a poor family with scum, not even enough money for food, and he has suffered such serious injuries and urgently needs to replenish energy. If a unit of metal is sold this time, it will take at least 10 or 20 days. There is food money. If you have money, you have confidence. He was happily preparing to walk back, but Rhubarb told him to stop. It turned out that Rhubarb had also checked this area habitually, and found that the integrity of one thing was not bad, so he reported it to Xingchen to know. What Rhubarb found was the shell of a small spaceship. In this scrapyard, there are quite a lot of spaceships of this size, but most of them are scrapped spaceships, which cannot be reused at all. Originally, Xingchen didn't have much interest in this thing, but Rhubarb displayed the detected data in Xingchen's mind. Advertisement. The integrity of the outer shell of the small spacecraft is 67%. The integrity of the full hard shell is 87%. The integrity of the middle anti-collision soft layer is 19%. The integrity of the inner support structure is 73%. This integrity, it seems that the overall integrity is only 67% is not too high, but the integrity of the most important full hard shell is a bit interesting. A full shell with an integrity of 87% is almost 80% of the quality of new. How can such a quality shell be thrown into the waste area? Thinking of this, Xingchen decided to take a look, so Stardust turned and walked towards the area where Rhubarb found the shell. The black-faced old man was a little puzzled when he saw that the Stardust was exchanged, and he didn't leave in the car, but walked towards the area he occupied. After thinking about it, he brought his own guard robot and followed. The outer casing that Rhubarb found was under a pile of metal products. Looking from the side of Stardust, the outer casing only exposed a few square meters, and it looked like it had been burned. Xingdust walked to the shell of the spaceship and observed carefully. It was really burnt. The exposed area of the shell is covered with unknown residues, it is black, and only the metallic luster of the spaceship shell is exposed in the places where there are not many residues. It looks really bad. But there are a lot of things on it, and it takes a lot of effort to get this stuff out. Just as he was thinking about it, the black-faced old man also came over, seeing that Xingchen was interested in this thing. I couldn't help laughing for a moment, haha. Stardust, why are you so interested in this thing? It won't be too neat inside after it's burned like this, and it won't sell for a lot of work, so why not make a big one? Some spaceships are more affordable. What the old man said actually made sense. As far as they're scavengers, tinkering with these metals and alloys and such is all about selling money. But if you want to sell these spaceship shells for money, you have to get rid of other substances attached to the shell first. Only pure alloys have the value of recycling. But the outer shell of the spaceship is made of several layers combined together. The hard outer shell of the spaceship is naturally made of alloys that can be recycled. The inner support structure is made of different alloys, so it has to be separated before it can be sold. In addition, there is an anti-collision soft layer in the middle, which is more complicated. There are many kinds of materials, and the composition of the anti-collision soft layer of spaceships of different grades and sizes is also very different. If you don't clear out the things on this floor, the scrapyard won't take it. But cleaning up this layer is more troublesome, so most scavengers are not interested in the operation of disposing of spaceship hulls and selling them for money. That's the reason, but I'm not selling alloys. I'm interested in the spaceship shell. Xingchen thought so in his heart. But you can't say it out. This spaceship shell is in the old man's area. It stands to reason that after everyone occupies the space, if you want items in other people's area, you have to ask for the consent of the other party. Otherwise, it will be a violation of the rules. Maybe others will fight if they are evil. So how to say this, you still have to think about it. Although I don't want this outer shell of the spaceship to sell scrap metal, but I can't say this directly. In case the old man thinks the idea is good, he will ask for it. So, Xingchen organized his words in his mind, and then he said to the old man, looking at the hull from afar, "It's still complete, I'm thinking of making some adjustments, installing a suspension device, maybe I can get a covered one. The floating boat, the floating car I usually use is open, and it is uncomfortable to rush into the wind every day. I don't feel it normally, but this time I got hurt a little, but I can't stand it." The old man also nodded, thinking that this is reasonable, but the open-type suspension vehicles that everyone usually uses are convenient for loading and unloading goods. If you don't go up, the delivery efficiency will be compromised by then. The old man doesn't like the cargo itself, but the hull is in the area he occupies, so it's a bit reconciled to let Xingchen take it for nothing. So the old man said that he wanted it too, and asked Xingchen to find something else. I'll have asterisk asterisk KU, I don't want it, and neither do you. As soon as I showed some words I wanted, you started to think about it. Shinchan murmured in his heart, but the hull is in other people's area, so it's hard to force it if others don't let it go. Seeing that the old man actually didn't want it, he just didn't want Shinchan to take it for nothing. So Shinchan didn't bother, and just said that he wanted the hull and asked the old man to make a price. This is also what the scavengers often have before. If you want something in other people's area, you will naturally have to pay the corresponding price. This price can be more or less, depending on the situation. The old man saw that Shinchan spoke more happily, so he directly offered a price for 1 unit of metal, and he could exchange this thing. When Shinchan heard this, he turned his head and left without hesitation at all. Now the old man is in a bit of a hurry. It is useless for him to buy this thing, and it is not enough to exchange money after dismantling it. It was just left here, anyway. In the future, if there is any trash metal or something, it will be poured directly on it, and it will never see the light of day. Now if Shinchan wants it, he can receive some benefits. But I didn't expect this asking price, and he just left without even intending to pay back the price, which is a loss. Don't rush to leave, tell me how much you can pay. Just this kind of spaceship outer shell, there are too many here, a thing that even big guys don't want. You want me to exchange it with a unit of metal? Am I that stupid? I'll find a replacement. Do I need to spend so many things to exchange with you? The old man couldn't hold back when he heard it. This is the actual situation. There are all kinds of spaceship shells and all kinds of scrap suspension vehicles in the waste dump. If anyone wants it, it is not difficult to find suitable ones after spending a little time. Usually, people don't focus on finding goods because they are not enough for the cost. That is to say, Shinchan was injured this time, so he decided to change to a full package hover car. It happened that the hull that Shinchan liked was in his area, otherwise no one would rush to him to change it. So the old man lowered the price first, and then quoted a price of 0.5 units of metal. But the price is still a bit high. Shinchan Xian thinks it's worth it. After all, what he wants is not to sell scraps, but this idea can't be said out loud. You want 0.5 units, how is it possible? There are so many metals, it will take at least 1 day to get them. I don't have to want this, so let's do it. I will give you 0.1 units of metals later, otherwise I will find other ones. Hearing Shinchan's counteroffer, the old man just shook his head. The price is too low, it's not worth it. How about it, 0.4 units, it can't be lower. Why? This old man is a bit difficult to deal with. Stardust is also a little speechless, that is, this thing is not in his own area, otherwise why would he bother to exchange it with others? But who made himself unlucky, and traveled a day late? Muttering in his heart, Shinchan didn't stay idle, he still had to bargain with the old man. There are only so many pure metals in this area, even if you are efficient, you can find them in 1 day, and you won't dig anywhere else in the remaining few days. The price the old man yelled was almost half of Shinchan's own production. Although it can be exchanged, wouldn't it be better to get rid of some of the price? Next, Shinchan and the old man had a verbal battle, plus intrigue. Finally, the price was cut at 0.23 units of metal. After agreeing on the price, Shinchan was relieved, and he would transport the shell of the spaceship away in a while, and leave it here for a day, but there is a risk of 1 day. The old man was very satisfied with the extra benefits. This is for nothing, I don't need to work hard on my own, and I have earned more than 10 days of food money for nothing. Shinchan directed the younger brothers to start cleaning up the accumulation on the hull of the spaceship. They were all rubbish anyway, and the robots were picked up and placed not far away. The cleaning speed is not slow. The old man saw that Shinchan was busy here, so he lazily stepped forward to help, and directly took his robot to the original workplace to continue working. Anyway, as long as the deal here is concluded, no one will go back on their word, and those who do not speak honesty will have no way out here. Not long after, the shell of this small spaceship completely revealed its true colors. This is a relatively luxurious small spaceship, which can be regarded as a sports car class in the spaceship. Generally, the people who play this kind of spaceship are either rich or expensive, and most of them are young people from the rich-end generation at home. The entire hull is less than 20 meters long, more than 5 meters wide, and more than 4 meters high. Because of the small size of this spaceship, all kinds of equipment are relatively compact. Except for the main power engine, energy storage, and equipment storage, the main driver's cab and restroom are only 11 or 12 square meters in size. Extremely narrow. Such a small space is obviously not suitable for long-distance travel, but this kind of spaceship was originally designed for the children of rich families to visit friends between star systems within tens of hundreds of light years. To put it bluntly, it is used to pretend to be rich when going out. Most people can't afford such flashy things. However, this spaceship is a scrapped hull. Looking at the burnt marks everywhere on the hull, it was probably placed somewhere and then burned. The inside of the spaceship hull is also scorched black. Most of these parts are missing, and the ones that are still in place are also deformed and damaged. Except for the hull, there is basically nothing desirable. However, the original goal was the spaceship shell. As for not getting other things, it is normal. After all, things that can be dismantled and recycled will be kept by others. No one is stupid, and they throw it out if they have money. Speaking of which, the shell of this spaceship is in good condition. If it is a spaceship of other grades, there are probably people who want it. But this ship is a luxurious and high-end ship. People who can afford this kind of spaceship will not want second-hand goods, and those who can't afford it will naturally not look for this kind of ship. At this time, the hull of the ship has been completely dug out, but it is still troublesome to take it away. Zingdust asked a few robots to try to lift it, but it was too heavy, and it felt like it lacked some strength, so it didn't move. Why? This is embarrassing. Fortunately, there are a lot of acquaintances here, and they borrowed 3 robot helpers with the people next to them, and then they lifted the outer shell of the spaceship onto the hovering vehicle. It's just that this car seems to be a little overweight again. I can only transport it to my own area first and then think of a way. I've been staying with the black-faced old man. This guy is always staring at me like a thief. This makes me very uncomfortable. Stardust asked Dang Dang to drive the suspension car back to his own area. I saw the levitating vehicle swaying slowly moving towards the target area. It's just like this after moving less than 1 kilometer, so it's hundreds of kilometers away to go home, so don't lie down halfway. Returning to the area he occupied, Xingchen didn't dare to ask the robot brother to unload the spaceship. It took a lot of effort to put it on, and if it was unloaded, it would have to be a toss, so it's better to just fix it on the suspension car. The shell of the spaceship is complete, but there are still a lot of garbage and waste products inside, which also account for a lot of weight. Since those things are already scrapped and unusable, it will be natural to take them down. This work has to be done by the younger brothers. Dang Dang and Bailu tremblingly climbed into the interior of the spaceship from the door of the spaceship. There are also many burnt things inside, and there are black things everywhere on the walls of the ship and some partitions. There are also some burnt-out equipment. These must be removed as much as possible. Good to lose some weight. The younger brothers are doing dry cleaning, and Stardust will be free now, but the time has come to the hot period of the day, and the temperature in the place where the stars shine has risen to more than 60 degrees. People can no longer stay outside in such an environment. Stardust found an abandoned spaceship and got into it. As long as it wasn't in the direct sunlight, it wouldn't be so uncomfortable. Anyway, the hot period is only about 2 hours. As long as you hide in the underground space during this period, it will be easy to get through this period. The younger brothers outside have no complaints about such a high temperature. Of course, they generally don't talk. Anyway, after about 2 hours of dismantling during the hot period, the outer shell of the spaceship lost at least 3 tons of weight, and there was still some garbage hidden in the corners, which couldn't be removed for a while, so that's the only way to go. Xingchen estimates that the outer shell of the spaceship is about 17 or 18 tons. Although this weight is still a little bit higher than the safety line of the suspension vehicle, it should not be a big problem. After all, there is a certain margin in the design of machines. Even if the overload crushes part of the body this time and affects the overall lifespan, then no one will trouble you, right? This is ready to go, it's time to go home. It's still a car, but this time Xingchen didn't sit in the car. After all, there is one less person on the car, and the levitation car is easier. Xingchen took out the hoverboard he was carrying in his bag. Although the speed of this thing is average, but because the hoverboard is loaded with too much, the speed cannot be increased. Comparing the two, the speed is about the same. In order to reduce the carrying capacity of the suspension vehicle, Xingchen put the slug into his bag and carried it on his back. But he couldn't carry the two escort robots on his back. The carriage of the suspended vehicle would fill up the hull of the ship, making it impossible to stand in, so Xingchen asked the two escort robots to hold the reinforced metal brackets on the outside of the suspended vehicle with their arms. Just hang on and go back. Everything was arranged. Dang dang, started the suspension car. This time the levitation car didn't have that wobbly feeling when it was driving, but the speed was still not very fast. Judging by this speed, it might take 3 times as long to go home. Although it is said that it takes 3 times as long, it still has to wait. Just like that, Xingchen took his younger brother, stepped on the hoverboard, and walked home slowly all the way. Of course, this home is only near the passageway back home, and I have not been able to enter the warehouse where I live. The shell of this spaceship is a bit big, and the passage home is somewhat difficult to get through. However, this passage has been arranged with great effort, and there are naturally some mysteries in it. 20 meters away from the passage entrance, there is a gap that can be opened, and inside is the warehouse of a spaceship more than 30 meters away. This spaceship is a cargo spaceship, and the cabin is relatively large, just enough to hold the shell of this small spaceship. After the hover vehicle transported the shell of the spaceship into the warehouse of the cargo spaceship, all the younger brothers and Xingchen worked together to unload the shell of the spaceship. Then everyone went out of the warehouse together and closed the gap again. Perfect, no one knows that this thing is hidden inside. When the things are delivered to the home, Stardust is considered a major event. But there is still one thing to do, and that is to sell a unit of pure metal quickly. Without the spaceship shell pressing the car, the speed of the hover car rose again. Xingchen took his younger brother all the way back to his home, hurriedly moved the 0.87 unit of pure metal in the house to the suspension vehicle, and then took his younger brother all the way to the scrap yard. After all this busy work, he finally sold the metal. It's no wonder that Xingchen is so anxious to sell things. The main reason is that he is too poor. The food, drink, and the energy used by the younger brothers all cost money. Rhubarb is an energy eater, and now the energy value has almost dropped below 1%. If you don't hurry up and buy energy bars for it, it may turn around later. There will be a strike. There is a vending machine in the waste station itself, but there are relatively few types of things sold in it, and the selling price is quite expensive. But it's only sold here. If you don't buy it here, you have to travel hundreds of kilometers to another mining area to buy it. I heard people say that the things there are not cheap. Anyway, this is back to 1135 RALs, which is the currency unit used on this planet. These 1135 RALs can still buy some things. Xingchen calculated that he would stay at home for 3 days, and he only had 4 servings of food, so he bought 2 servings of food and 3 servings of water first. As long as the problem of eating for these 3 days is solved, when I go back to school, I can naturally buy food and water at a lower price. In addition, there are several more expensive foods at the school. You get what you pay for, and the expensive foods are more beneficial to your own cultivation, but those foods have to be bought, not like the supplements you usually eat for free. Meals cost nothing. After buying food and water, Stardust became cruel and bought a new energy bar. This is for Rhubarb. Seeing that the energy value of Rhubarb is about to fall below 1 point, if it goes on strike, it will have too much impact. It will make a lot of money, so naturally use it first. And this money can be earned, and Rhubarb has also contributed a lot. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.